Okay, well, wasn't that fun? So let's go on to questions from you folks. And can someone give me the time? I turned myself on.
8:17.
8:17. Thank you to the guys with the computers. Okay, so I'm going to go to the first question from the floor, which is about a national housing strategy. So the preamble is, Canada does not currently have a national affordable housing strategy. This plan would prioritize the needs of those who are currently homeless, those who are vulnerably housed, parents who have large families, and persons with disabilities. It would also acknowledge the need for an emergency housing and shelter in the event of disasters and other crises. So the first part of the question for the candidates is, how will your party best address the need for safe, affordable housing on the South Shore? And the second part of the question is, does Canada need a national housing strategy? And so we're going to go first to Kris MacLellan.
Thank you for the question. It's certainly a good one. The Green Party recognizes that a national housing strategy is in the interests of all Canadians, particularly those with rural interests. And as a Member of Parliament for a rural riding, I would certainly work to ensure that a national housing strategy is part of the next Parliament's mandate. A federal commitment to low-income housing with a national affordable housing plan to ensure adequate housing by 2019 would be something that the Green Party would make of the utmost importance. 20,000 new and 10,000 rehabilitated affordable units per year for the next 10 years using capital grants and changes to the tax and mortgage insurance regulation system is something that the Green Party would start funding immediately through our pollution tax program. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay. And so next we have Gordon Earle.
Yes, our party would certainly support a national housing program. We've been advocating that for some time. And from my own experience as a Deputy Minister of Housing and Consumer Affairs for the province of Nova Scotia, I was very heavily involved in affordable housing and housing programs to take in all kinds of situations where perhaps a family wanted to have a granny suite to house their relatives, and these programs work when they are properly resourced. And at one time the federal government was working very closely with the province, and then they withdrew their support for national housing and more or less decided the provinces should go it on their own. So we need to come back to working together with the federal government, provincial governments, municipalities, all working together on the housing situation. There's lots of room also when we're doing that, and we're thinking about building houses, to bring in a green environment approach, whereby we can retrofit homes, we can use clean sources of energy and solar panels and so forth, and utilize the new technology that's available to us today in our construction. This would not only provide jobs for people, but it would also be cutting down on our greenhouse gas emissions. So there's lots that we can do there, and we would support that and move forward in that direction. Thank you very much.
And finally, we have Derek Wells.
Absolutely. I think we all know that we need affordable housing in this country. We need more seniors housing in this country. Not only do we need affordable housing for low incomes, we need affordable housing for many of our seniors. I know when I'm campaigning, and we're all hearing this, I'm sure, when we go from door to door, we have seniors who are very concerned about how they're going to be able to continue to stay in their homes. With the cost of power, you know, I went into a house recently, and this really shook me up. I went in, this was an elderly couple. They turned their power off because they didn't have enough money to pay the power and eat as well. I mean, when we see this in a country like Canada, when we see this in the South Shore, when we see this in South Shore St. Margaret's, that's not acceptable. We need to address those issues, and affordable housing is one aspect of that. Our platform talks about it. In 2 minutes, I can't give you all the details. We had to work with CMHC. we have to work with the provincial government, and I think to some extent we have to work with the municipal governments. I see Don down in the room, and Don, I didn't run this by you, but I think we all 3 levels of government, have to be players in this. It's a real tragedy and a real issue in this country, and it shouldn't be. We're a wealthy country. We need to look after people, and we need to give them adequate housing, and we can't go into houses where they turn off the heat so they can eat. That's not right.
Okay, so the second question from the floor is, both levels of government are encouraging new citizens to come to Canada to increase our population. If you form the next government, what will you do to encourage our children to have children? Many cannot afford them as things are today. And so first I'm going to go to Derek Walls.
I'd like to have that one to start with. Allison and I have 6 children and 4 grandchildren, and we haven't had to encourage them to have children at all. I mean, and we're going to have more. It's a tough question. Are you going to give them financial incentives to have more children like they do in Quebec? I mean, yeah, we all like to have more grandchildren, wouldn't we? But at the same time, I'm interested in having jobs in my community so that my children can stay in my community and work. I think that's more of an issue that I have. I'm not going to go out there and say, kids, have more children. They make personal choices. We do know that we have a workforce that needs to be replenished. We have an aging workforce. We have jobs with no people to fill them. And we have people who can't find jobs. We have to find the right mix. We have to train people for the jobs there are. We have to look at immigration. We have to have an immigration policy that works. And getting into the immigration, the family unification, I think it's dreadful that we bring in families and then say the grandparents can't come, and they never get to see their grandchildren when they're born in this country. I think that's wrong. So, I mean, immigration is a big issue. I'm not going to, I already have the card, and I'm not going to be able to answer it. But, we have to deal with all the issues, and just saying it to our kids, go have more children, that's not the answer.
Okay, so next we have Kris MacLellan.
So I hope I understood the question correctly. I think I'll take a slightly different tact on it than Derek. I almost called you David, your name's wrong. Derek.
You got both our names wrong, that's why you turned them around.
For me, it's a very personal issue, and it's one that brought me to the Green Party in the first place. Those who have followed the Green movement for as long as it's been around, the mantra is always, well, let's make sure that there's something left for our kids. Let's make sure that this great country and all the natural beauty and the resources that we enjoy are there so that when the next generation comes, they have something to enjoy as well. And I think that's absolutely noble, and it rings true for me, particularly as a guy who doesn't have any children of his own yet. But it's sour for me as well, because I know at the age of 28, in the year 2011, there's already so much that's gone. There's already so much that I won't get to enjoy that my parents did, and that many of the people in this room did. And I don't want to see a Nova Scotia that has no access to the coastline for public citizens. It's all bought up. I don't want to have to tell my kids what Alberta and Saskatchewan used to look like before they were the tar sands. I don't want to have to explain to my kids why they can't drink out of the rivers. My parents used to swim and play in the Myra River as they were children, and I can still remember the creeping doubt of why I shouldn't have been drinking or playing in the Myra the way that they did when they were young. I mean, these things are realities for me here today, and it's because of the Green Party and thanks to the Green Party that I'm able to be here with you today and hopefully to raise awareness of this issue and I hope get your support and then bring Green members of Parliament into this system so that we can work and change this so that when I do have kids, there's still a beautiful, pristine Canada with clean air and clean water that they can enjoy like I have.
Without going into my 2 minutes, could you just read the last part of the question for me? Not the preamble, just the question itself.
Yes, I absolutely can. If you form the next government, what will you do to encourage our children to have children? Many cannot afford them as things are today.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, I don't usually get into encouraging people to have children. I think that's a very personal decision. But I, like the other people sitting at this table, have great concerns about the kind of world that children will be coming into. You know, my children quite often ask me, well, Dad, why do you still, at your age, you know, remain involved in politics? And why are you doing this? You should just be sitting back, relaxing and enjoying yourself. And it's for the very reason of being concerned about what kind of world my children, my grandchildren are going to grow up in, that I keep involved. And I feel if I can do something to help build a better world, as Tommy Douglas said, help build a better world, then I have a responsibility to do that. But I would encourage children to, my children and others that I might be in a position to talk to about this, to just make sure they have their plans in place when they think about children so that they don't run into problems further down the line, finding themselves with mouths to feed that they can't afford to feed. Just make sure that they have a good job, and it's our responsibility to make sure those jobs are there. So we should be investing in our children, investing in our communities, so that that doesn't have to become an issue for people as to whether or not they have children or how many they should have. Because I know quite often one of the saddest things you can come across at the end of one's years is somebody who has no family, someone who's alone and has no children or relatives to relate to in their last few years. And it's kind of sad. So I think it's nice to have family, but we also have a responsibility to make sure that our society can care for those families. Thank you.